Hello everyone, welcome to my Flosstube channel. My name is Jessie Lee and I'm coming at you with video number 27. And first off, I just want to thank you all for your tremendous feedback on my last Flosstube video. You guys were so nice to me and I really enjoyed reading all your comments. You all seem to really enjoy my singing, and a few of you told me that I have a pretty singing voice, which surprised me because I was just being really goofy, singing ridiculous songs about my pets, and I wasn't really trying to sound nice, but you guys still made me feel really good about myself, so thank you. And you all were really interested in my idea to possibly start an Etsy shop. And you gave me such awesome feedback and advice about that, which I really appreciated. And the consensus definitely was that if I'm interested in die cutting and paper craft, I should really get a Cricut or a Silhouette instead of a manual die cutting machine. I hear that loud and clear, so it'll just take me a bit longer to get to that place. But you all have really put a bee in my bonnet and made me feel more inspired to maybe one day have my own crafting business. So thank you very much. You guys have always been so encouraging of my ideas, and I'm always just so surprised by how supportive this community is. It just makes me so happy. So, since my idea for a cross-stitch card shop is going to take a bit more mulling over for a while, I went ahead and spent my leaving money on new paint for my living room, and I have been so satisfied with that choice. Tim and I moved the furniture around and painted the living room in stages over the course of a week, and it was so nice to work on a house project together. It just felt like quality time together like we haven't had in a while, so that was an enjoyable experience that I did not expect. But the color itself turned out awesome. I really like it, and Tim actually seems even more in love with it than I am, which is super adorable because it's pink. I chose a very pale peachy pink for the living room, and it turned out really nice. It looks so light and airy and fresh, and I think it overall reads pretty neutral with just a little extra something. It's super cute, and Tim has been showing off pictures of it to his coworkers and his family, which is just so sweet. I'm glad he likes it. The living room is where our family spends the most time when we're at home, so changing the color in there and making it look nicer is really sort of life-changing. Now, I do have before and after pictures to show you guys, if I may. Let me just scooch over. This is what my living room looked like before we painted it pink. And this gray color wasn't ugly by any means. I did live with it for about 3 years, but it just wasn't quite right. In our previous house, I had actually painted the living room a light gray, which looked really pretty in that house. But when we moved to this house, I was forced to choose paint colors in a rush, so I just went with something familiar. But this particular shade of gray turned out to be a bit too dark and also too blue toned. So it just looked really cold and dreary. And also in this living room, the walls are coved up by the ceiling. So the contrast between that gray and the bright white ceiling really stood out, and it always bothered my eyes. And also, our dining room is adjoined to the living room, and the dining room is covered in wood paneling, exactly like this. So that cold gray and that warm wood looked so jarring next to each other, and that is probably what I hated the most about our previous living room color. But this is how it looks now. Please excuse the naked windows in this picture. I still need to get some new curtains to go with this new paint color, but I am really in love with this relatively subtle shade of pink. It's just so warm and cheerful while still being light and airy the way I tend to prefer my colors. And it meshes a lot better with the dining room next door, and it's just such an uplifting color, which I think will make the biggest difference in the winter time. In winter, the gray was really just such a downer. But now I have this pink that is just so warm and natural feeling. In fact, when I'm sitting around in the living room, I find that I'm not even looking at the walls because they're just the color that they were meant to be. This pink just feels so right, and I am so glad that I coughed up my leave-in money for this project. It's really improved my daily life a whole lot. And now I have one more not cross-stitch project to talk about, and that is my caterpillar plushies, which I am knitting to go into bedtime bags that I'm donating to kids at my local homeless shelter. I actually have 3 caterpillars I've worked on that you haven't seen yet. And the first one I'll show you is this guy. He is a very colorful, stripy guy with a bright orange belly. And I made him to go with this book. All of the books that I'm going to show you guys are from my stitchy friend, Susan. She is so generous to me, giving me these books to go with my caterpillars. Thank you, Susan. And this is his blankie. So that is the first little caterpillar package that I've put together. And then I stitched up this unique looking guy. He is inspired by this book, Caterpillar to Butterfly, which features monarch butterflies. And I chose his colors because monarch caterpillars are black, white, and yellow. So this caterpillar is sort of realistic. And then this is the perfect blanket that I found for him. So this will be a very special bedtime bag. And then the last one I've been working on isn't finished yet. This is his back. Very bright colors again. And this one goes with this book. Haven't gotten a blanket yet, but it'll come. So I have been knitting up a storm lately, and these plushies are so cute and fun to make. All right, on to cross-stitch stuff. I actually have 2 FFOs as well as 2 pieces of haul, which sort of go hand in hand. So I will show you them all together, starting with The Fox Family by Stitchy Princess, who is a Ukrainian cross-stitch designer. I stitched this up on 32 count vintage Stormy Night Lugana, and then I mounted it with a little bit of quilt batting behind it onto a piece of foam core board using straight pins, and that is what is inside this really pretty rustic black frame. And this is actually the first time I have put cross stitch in a frame without glass in front of it, and I think it turned out looking so cute and plush in there. And I enjoyed stitching this design so much that I immediately had to buy Stitchy Princess's newest pattern, which is called The World of Bees. It looks like this. I think this pattern is absolutely adorable, and I'm especially tickled by the mustachioed beekeeper. And interestingly, I have never stitched a pattern with bees on it before, which is surprising to me because bees are very special in my family. My grandma Bernice was nicknamed Bee by all her friends, and so I gave my daughter the middle name Bee, spelled B-E-E, just like the bug. So I am very pleased to have a bee-themed pattern in my stash now, and of course, to give more of my support to Stitchy Princess. I also managed to fully finish my Precious Moments cross stitch, and here it is, all framed up. I think this light blue frame I found is absolutely perfect for it, and I put it together the same way with some quilt batting and foam board and pins, and I'm glad I chose to leave the glass off because now you can really see the sparkle in that opalescent Lugana. I think this turned out so pretty, and I decided to hang it right on this wall behind me, exactly where I had my Bygone cat hanging. So the Bygone cat moved up there on that shelf, and my 2 temperature cross stitches will move eventually too, because I have a whole new plan for that little section of wall right there. And it does involve my Precious Moments snowman and little girl and kitty cat. And I decided that I will need another sentimental feeling winter cross stitch to go with these guys. So I happened to think of the short movie called The Snowman from the 1980s. It is a beautiful film that I watched over and over again as a kid. So I went searching and found this book. It is an entire hardcover book called The Snowman in Cross Stitch by Leslie Nora Hills, and the copyright is 2001. So I found this in a used bookstore on the internet. And this book is just full of the sweetest patterns depicting pretty much the entire plot of the movie. I'm gonna try to show you a little flip through of all that is in here, but I'm probably gonna be pretty klutzy about it, but I'll do my best. But there are patterns for just about every scene in the movie. You have the little boy building the snowman, and then the snowman coming to life and them exploring the house. I love this one of them with the balloons. I remember when I was a kid, them dancing together in the boys' room was like one of my favorite scenes. The motorcycle ride, and then them flying away to go meet Santa, and the snowman dances in here. They even have the snowman wearing a kilt dancing. It's just the cutest. It's just incredible. Look, maybe it'll be easier if I show you the table of contents because it has quite a few of the patterns on there. Here we go. It's just a taste of what is in this book. It's absolutely beautiful. And I'm so excited that I will have my choice of patterns to stitch to represent this movie. And just this book itself is so special to me. I'm just so touched that I was able to find this. I am ever so grateful for these latest FFOs and new patterns because I have hit a snag with all the rest of my cross stitching. I have 7 WIPs at the moment, which feels a bit overwhelming to me, and I have met a hurdle with every single one of them. So, to amuse myself, I'm going to give you guys a quick WIP parade and do a little roast of each one of my cross stitches. The WIP that has offended me the least is the one that I haven't been doing any work on lately, and that is my Autumn Cat Sampler by Nancy Rossi. This is the design, and this is my progress. You've seen it before. The next step I have to do is putting in all the backstitch over this tree branch, and backstitch is not my favorite. However, on these designs, the seasonal cat samplers, the backstitch brings out such satisfying detail, so I think I won't have too much of a problem sucking it up and moving forward. The next of my WIPs committing lesser offenses is Quaker Piece by Remembering Bygone Stitches. Here's the design. As you can see, it is rather complicated and busy. And here is my progress. My latest feat was finishing up that very involved motif in the middle. And the motif I have to look forward to next is even bigger. And the design of that particular motif is going to require extra brain power to figure out how to make the variegation of the floss look its best. So, shame on you, Quaker Piece. You have not been very peaceful. I also have Through the Storms by Silver Creek Samplers. And here is my progress. It was through working on this design that I discovered I absolutely hate stitching text. I did this as a new start back in October to celebrate my wedding anniversary, and I brought it back out for April because that is exactly halfway through the year till my next anniversary. And now that the month of April is done, I'm happy to have this leave my site. Next up on my shit list is Temperature Butterflies by Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy. The temperatures outside lately have been forcing me to repeatedly stitch with the flosses that have the absolute worst texture. That's not really the pattern's fault, but still, until the weather changes, this WIP can go straight to hell. Even though I am not a dog person, I am also stitching Temperature Walk with Me. I am stitching this for my in-laws, and I recently got to put in the cute gecko and orange tree I came up with to represent Florida where they live. But now I am stuck in the very tedious progress of stitching the rest of the pavement, and I often find myself wondering if I truly love my in-laws enough to put up with this crap. Next is A is for Ellipsis by Durene Jones. This is the golden child of my WIPs, and even it is disappointing me. I thought for sure that working on these colorful motifs would be such a relief from slogging through all the white colored stitching I had to do on my recent FFOs, but no, I was betrayed and forced to stitch an egg. And can you guess what letter G is going to be? That's right, a ghost. And the WIP that has been angering me the most is this design from an old cross-stitch magazine. You know, despite this pattern having a pretty rainbow, it really does have a shit ton of white for me to stitch. And also, all of this text you see here, which I painstakingly charted up myself and did all in backstitch, is very slightly off center. I don't think it's really fair for such a sunny, happy design to make me cry so much. That is the end of my WIP roast. I feel so much better now. But really, you guys, I do hope you can tell I actually love all of my cross-stitch pieces. I'm just a little bit hung up on some tricky spots right now. But I would really enjoy it if you guys would tell me in the comments about any of your cross-stitch horror stories. And until next time, God loves you, I love you, and happy stitching. Bye-bye.